Now, to our next topic. An average of 38 greyhounds are being put down every month in this country because of overbreeding and a lack of homes for them, animal welfare groups are saying this week. Joining me now on the line is Una Jansen from the Greyhound Rescue Association of Ireland. Good morning, Una, and thank you for taking the call.
Good morning, Billy. Thanks for having me on the show.
This statistic is sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terribly sad. It's very, very upsetting. As somebody who has greyhounds as pets, let me tell you, they make absolutely wonderful companion animals. So it's a terrible pity to see so many dogs being needlessly euthanized every year. And that's what makes us extremely worried is the fact that the IGB, the Irish Greyhound Board, have recently begun promoting breeding, trying to encourage people who are currently involved in the racing industry and new breeders to actually breed more dogs in Ireland. So it's devastating to realise that, you know, we could...
But why breed more if you don't have homes for them?
Yeah, well, this is the question that we're asking. We don't have sufficient rescue places to deal with all of the dogs in welfare at the moment. Rescue organisations here in Ireland and in the UK and all over Europe are choking under the weight of the amount of greyhounds who are retiring every year or being abandoned or being left in pounds. So we're really worried about the future, what's going to happen when we have even more dogs to deal with.
Now, you're joining forces with similar organisations in the UK to do something about this.
Yes, we have. So last week we issued a statement with a number of organisations here and in the UK calling for action to be taken to limit the number of greyhounds being bred and entering the racing industry. The Irish Greyhound Board is a semi-state body, and they're supported by public taxes, and they're ultimately responsible to the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. So, for example, they received 14.8 million euros from Exchequer funding for 2016, and an additional 700,000 euros has been granted to them because they haven't actually been profitable for a number of years. So we would like to see some of that money earmarked for welfare and for rescue organisations, and we would also like to see them take a more responsible approach to limit the breeding, to restrict breeding, and to tackle this idea of greyhounds as being a disposable commodity.
And when these, at the other end of the scale, when they get old and they're deemed to be not of use anymore, what happens then?
Well, unfortunately, there's a number of unpleasant fates in store for them. So the very lucky greyhounds will end up in a home. But let me give you an example. The average lifespan for a greyhound in Ireland, a racing greyhound in Ireland, the average lifespan is between 3 and 4 years. But a healthy greyhound can live for 13 or 14 years. So that will tell you the majority of these dogs are destroyed. Also, we have a worrying number of greyhounds that are going to countries, they're being exported to countries where there are little or no welfare practices in place for them. So I think a lot of your listeners will have been aware of the campaign that took place last week and the week before, which was a campaign to stop greyhounds being sent to Macau, to an infamous and notoriously bad racing track on the island of Macau, which is just off Hong Kong, called the Canindrome, which has a non-existent retirement rate for the dogs. The dogs live in horrible welfare standards. If they don't place in 3 races, they are destroyed. They never experience the love of a family. They never experience a bond with an owner. They're living in cages. They're on the track all day. There's very, very loud music played at the track all the time in order to drown out the noise of these dogs crying and barking in their cages. So, I mean, we were horrified to discover that the movement of the numbers of dogs being sent to Macau is actually increasing. And of course, the IGB, the current chairman of the IGB, has been actively promoting a greyhound export industry over the last 5 years. And that's something that we see is very, very negative. What happens then is, it promotes overbreeding, and it allows export to be used as a kind of a dumping ground for dogs that are seen as not fast enough for racing in Ireland. And again, it encourages this idea of greyhounds as a disposable commodity. And that's something that Greyhound Rescue Association of Ireland is fighting really, really hard against.
Now, as you mentioned there a moment ago, you've called for greyhound breeding to be restricted to help protect them. But how could that be enforced?
How could it be enforced? Well, I think it's up to the Irish Greyhound Board themselves and of course, the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, who's the overseeing body for them. It's just to limit the amount of greyhounds, maybe to limit limit the amount of dogs being bred, to limit the number of litters. There are restrictions in place at the moment, but we'd like to see those tightened. And we'd like to see the Irish Greyhound Board fostering an attitude within the industry of responsibility, where owners are encouraged to take responsibility for their dogs throughout their whole life cycle, not just through their racing career, but from the time that the pups are whelped right up until the time where their life ends, hopefully in a natural environment, in a home. We'd like to see them foster this, and we'd like to see them reprimanding owners who don't take adequate care of the welfare of their dogs.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for taking the call. I appreciate that. Good morning to you, Una. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's Una Jansen from the Greyhound Rescue Association of Ireland.